Hi everyone. Is it working? Hello? All good. I'm gonna have to get used to this earphone thing, this sort of silent disco. I'm really glad to be talking to you today about the journey that we've been on at Müller. Originally, we prepared these slides for my family, actually, when they asked me, is all I do take pictures of yogurt? So I had to prepare a few other things in order to show them that we marketers do a little bit more than that. And hopefully you'll feel the same at the end of the presentation as well. So as I said, really pleased to be taking you through some of these the decisions and choices that we've done in terms of weathering the storm over the last year or so. But I'm really glad also that this presentation's taking place at Wimbledon Week, because actually I'm inspired by Arthur Ashe's quote in terms of how do you tackle the storm, what steps do you take to address that. And as we know, Arthur Ashe, the famous winner of Wimbledon in 1975, and he said there were sort of three things. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And what I really like about this is it captures a real simplicity and a pragmatism, which I think is essential in turning around brands that are in a little bit of trouble. So I'm going to take you through each of those stages that we've been on with Müller over the last 14 months. Just a quick introduction of myself. So formerly, I've worked in sort of large FMCG organizations, both at Mondelez, Kraft, and then formerly at JDE. So larger organizations, lots of portfolios, very, sort of multi-structured. I came to Müller about 14 months ago and sort of came across a very different business. Private business, you have access to the owner directly. So really in terms of practicing what you preach and addressing the challenges, you are right at the nose on this. So it really forces you to take that simplicity and practical approach. But one of the reasons I took the job at Müller was because, quite honestly, it was one of the most dynamic brands in the 1990s, 2000s. The reason I love this chart is it just demonstrates the spirit with which Müller took on the category in the 90s. Formerly, yogurt used to be the thing that you got when you asked for dessert, but your mum didn't want to give you it. And that's what you got on the left-hand side instead. You got this plain, boring, dull, and that was what the category was. And then Müller Corner came along and really took the whole category by storm, adding taste, fun, playfulness. And from then on, it really became a fabric of the nation brand. It did this through years and years of world-class marketing. Numerous times this brand won Brand of the Year, Best Advertising, etc. So this is a place of great heritage. And I think all of you will be able to remember one or two of these ads, depending on when you were born. Famous people, famous advertising, and really bold, distinctive work. My particular favorite is Pleasure or Pain, in the middle on the bottom row. I also love the cow on the beach. Doesn't feature a product until about 26 seconds in, and even then I wish it didn't feature the product. I wish it just continued. But some lovely work all the way through that built up some really distinctive assets that you could build on from there. So a marketer's dream, this job. But we'd lost our way. So when you look at the results, market share wasn't going in the right place. We were continually losing share over years. We were falling out of favor. And a brand that had been in 75% of household fridges was suddenly closer to 50. And when you look at that over a long period of time, it's quite alarming. And when you walk into a business with that, it really forces you to, act quick and practically. The trigger moment for us, though, was actually when we were looking cumulatively at all of the things that we had. We had our creative assets, so our brand strategy was tied up in sub-brands. Our creative assets were tied up in an athletics partnership, which had been going for 6.5 years, but unfortunately wasn't congruent with market share development, brand imagery development as well. So we had to make some decisions and move away from that partnership and get back to basics. However, the challenge with this is, as soon as you have all of your creative assets tied up in partnerships with famous athletes, as soon as you pull away from that, you're left with no limited creative assets to play with. And meanwhile, you have this dynamic that actually we need to deliver results fast. So what are we going to do? Use what you have. So talked a lot about the passion that I had for the brand and the history that potentially wasn't being leveraged and harnessed as well as it could be. So we had to go back a little bit to the drawing board and understand, what did we have in our locker? What could we use? And through a combination of qual research, quant research, we came to a really, really good set of rich insights quite quickly. Some of this was really obvious. So as a brand leader, we knew we had latent brand power, higher awareness than anyone. We had the largest, portfolio SKUs from a retailer perspective. We had we had real brand strength that was still there, even though it was waning. We were famous for Müllerlicious taste, and when you look at this on the statistics, when you're asking people taste I love, Müller always has a taste I love about double of all of its competitors. So this is just an advantage that you sit with today, but clearly keep pushing that only, and that is not enough in a yogurt category that is transforming, a yogurt and dessert category that is transforming over time. So this is not enough to go on. So what we did was, we also did some critical distinctive asset work, because we all knew we had magic in our hands, but we didn't quite know what. And the distinctive asset research, as I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, having conducted it and read it in the textbooks, what that tells us is not only which assets are famous, but also which assets are attributed wholly to us, to Müller, the brand. Because assets that are famous but not attributed to your brand are growing a commodity. That's all you're doing, so you're spending money on commodities. I'll talk about the left-hand side really quickly, but most of my presentation I want to talk about on the right-hand side really quickly. Well, the left-hand side, that's where we're on the focus. You look at a brand like Müller Light, and it hasn't transformed. So what you've done is, what the research showed was that actually we lacked some of the assets there, and this is some of the work we have to pull away, which takes longer. It's not something you can turn around in a second. But on the left-hand side, we unveiled some gems. Müller Rice, Rice Baby, Fridge, Feel the Urge, and the Müller Corner Shape. And these assets, they came through as really, really strong and really ownable. The corner one in the research, what we realized was, yes, it was distinct, but did it have the brand power of a Coca-Cola bottle? That was not realized until we did the research. And when we came out, we realized we had absolute magic on our hands in terms of distinctiveness, assets that marketers would kill for, and really things that we should be pushing. And it becomes very, very simple when you have that realization and that focus and that clarity. So doing what you can. Once you've built the clarity, it's really important you act on it in a very, very clear way, a simple way. But before, we realized also there's the adage of being noticed. So I think it's a David Trott quote, which is, I think it's 4% of advertising is liked, 7% of advertising is disliked, 89% isn't even noticed. So when you take it, and if I've misattributed David Trott, I apologize, and we can get that, but ignoring the numbers for a second, you just take that, 9 out of 10 advertisers, 9 out of 10 of those things that go on air, not noticed. So we take that and we sit there and said, look, if we're going to stand up, we need to create impact. We have to create impact if we're going to get noticed. So we came up with a simple set of rules, 4 things which would guide our creative judgment. and guide our decision making. One, it's got to be bold. And this is about taking risks, stretching it, making sure we are noticed, even if we are disliked. Bright, it's got to be based on insight. Has to be based on insight, because that's the thing which will connect and engage the consumer with what you are showing. Broad, we must go broad. This is a Fabric of the Nation brand. We want to get back into as many fridges as possible. It's absolutely vital that we appeal to as broad an audience as possible. This is marketing 101. And then branded. And this doesn't necessarily mean your logo has to cover the page, but it means that you need to leverage the assets that you've got so that consumers undoubtedly take out that it's a Müller piece of advertising. So with this clarity, we decided we had to act quickly. And this is the first piece of work that we came with. And as the intro to the talk says, you may have seen it over your LinkedIn feeds. I was gobsmacked with the amount of response we got on this from the creative industries, but more gobsmacked from consumers as well. So there's a slide later, but I'll talk about it now. Within a few days of putting this on air, we had Jordan North on BBC One talking about how Müller was back. I don't know why, but I just sense that it's back. Corners are back. His partner said they've never been away, which was true, but not necessarily true. The really nice thing about this is it focuses on that point of anticipation, which drives craving, but also it's super simple. And we loved the immediacy of this when we saw it. And believe me, we debated a lot about whether to put a logo on it, whether actually we needed a line as well. We came up with some really bad lines. They were really bad, and they looked terrible on there. So we decided not to go with it. But I kept asking. But the logo adds about 20 percentage points of brand recognition. So for those of you on creative purity, the logo wins every time in terms of it doing its job. The second one is built on a really incredibly complicated piece of strategy. We've got a footballer called Declan Rice, who happens to be quite famous. We don't really care that much about football, but we care a lot about rice. And we've got a brand called Müller Rice that is all about hunger fill, snacking, and we want to re-engage with a new modern audience, because honestly, rice pudding's not that sexy. So what do? We ring up Declan, and we ask him to partner with us. And this is the resulting copy. And I guess a lot of you will have seen, those of you into football, a lot of you will have seen recently in the transfer market, Declan's got hotter and hotter and hotter. And I think this has just been, this is one of those ones where you look tactical, but actually you're able to embed culture quite quickly, and it becomes something that you can really build on. So it's not something we sat there strategically going, it needs to work for the next 10 years. We sat there, took an opportunity, went for it very, very hard, and the response is really, really strong. What's the response? We're starting to get noticed again. This isn't just in sales, but honestly, we're in the results business, and it has to be in sales in the end. So sales is super important. Rice continues to grow penetration, strong share, and it's growing at 10 times the rate of the desserts category at the moment. But actually, what's really important, it was driving consideration amongst that audience set. And we had a debate about targeting. Do you go broad? Does it have to appeal to everybody? When you've got a portfolio like ours, we have to pick our battles. And we decided to pick our battles here and make sure that what we were doing was cutting through for this audience. On the right-hand side, really, really strong brand recognition. Loads of people come up to me and say, look, ever since I saw that, I've started buying Müller corners again. And they reminded me of my childhood. And I think that's the sort of thing we want to trigger in terms of that craving. But it's not just about sales. We also believe in populating culture, because when you're a brand of the scale and stature, we aspire to getting back to those heights that we've been at before. And I think some of the decisions we take, these are not the things that you can plan, but when they happen, it's very, very pleasing, because it means you've gone beyond just basic advertising.
Sing it again.
Ice, ice, baby.
So what's the...
Rice, rice, baby. Rice, rice.
So we're definitely not marketing to kids here, but you know, I think some of those things coming through are really trying to capture the kind of the joy and the cultural relevance of some of the stuff we're trying to do, which is really about connecting. But I talked at the start about needing immediate action, and this isn't all about tactics. By doing stuff which was bold and bright, that was getting results, we were able to buy ourselves a little bit of time as well. Because actually, when you look at that, you know, the situation we inherited, a lot of groundwork needs to be done, and it's really important that you buy the time to do that as well. You can't rush the fundamentals. You can't rush the research. You can't rush all of those elements that you need to do in order to get to a better platform. So we spent a lot of time in the background whilst running and delivering, working in the background as to what our future setup was going to be, to make it more sustainable, more strategically sound, and more impactful, and get us back to our former glory. So really, really important stage that we had. And although I'm not here today I was here today to talk about some of the iconic stuff that we've done in the short term. We really want to carry that legacy into the future, because actually with the heritage that you have of a brand, you want to take, as a marketer, you want to carry that forward into the future, and for people to look back on the work that we've done in 10, 15, 20 years' time with the same admiration and the same cultural impact. We've done some work back to connecting with a vision. So really coming back to why did we exist in the first place? Not just to make money, but to really put a smile on the nation's face. Really trying to capture that idea of when you take that yogurt, that Sainsbury's yogurt on the left-hand side, what do you want to do? You want to kind of add joy, taste, deliciousness, and fun to that. And in turn, you're going to really create more moments of joy, which will come through. So this is now our sort of North Star, which is going to guide a lot of the work we go on to do. And this is, as I said, without the time, we wouldn't have had a chance to be able to work on this. We've also spent a lot of time talking to consumers and really connecting with why, what their moments are, what makes those special. And what's come through really is the strength of the rituals that people have with Müller products. And everybody has their own unique space and time, but actually really connecting with those moments and understanding what it is about our products, which are a little bit more complex, a little bit more playful, require some level of ritual to get to it, whether it's licking the lid, whether it's stirring in the right way, whether it's tipping, whether it's spooning. Everybody has their own ritual, and it's really important that we speak to those as we create more and more rituals in the new generations to come. So this is another North Star for us, is focusing on consumer ritual and really trying to connect with those moments. This is just the start for us. So I'd love to come back here in a few years' time and be able to show you the full suite of work. But in terms of the story that we've been on, this is really just the start. We've done a couple of, for me, nice bits of work, but really this is just the marker from which we measure everything for the future. So with that, just wanted to thank you for your time, and have a good day. Have a good rest of the day.